Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. We're for a conversation with that great innovator in this field. If you've not heard of Adam Carolla, well, you should have been paying attention to the inception of the medium that you're currently watching now. Before there was Rogan, before there was Ricky Gervais, before there was even old Russ, me, that's who I am, there was Adam Carolla. This is a fantastic conversation about how being an online presence has become a fraught and political endeavor in and of itself. We'll be on YouTube for the first few minutes, but then we'll be exclusively available on Rumble. And it's worth noting that, like many of our conversations, this was first housed within our Awakened Wonder community, Locals. And of course, if you are a member of Locals, do know this: you can come and see me live anywhere in the world whenever you want, as long as I'm performing a show. I don't mean like, sort of when I'm laying in bed sleeping or when I'm at worship or at prayer. But when I'm performing live, like I am in the UK and in the United States later this year, you can get a ticket just by emailing tickets@Russell Brand, your identity within Locals, and we will sort you out with tickets. Without further delay, ado, or hullabaloo, here's me and Adam Carolla. Hope you enjoy it. Adam, thanks for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
I got sort of fascinated with you again after watching a couple of your confrontations with Gavin Newsom, but then also you continue to be a resident of California, so I figured that Gavin Newsom must be some sort of perpetual nemesis in your life. Is that right?
He is. I mean, it's to live in California. For me, it's basically like somebody said, let's create a fictional character that would go against every thought you've ever had. And who would annoy you the most? Like, I've often joked that I think Gavin Newsom wakes up in the morning and thinks, what would annoy Adam the most? And whatever it is, that's what I'm going to do today. But that's kind of what it's like living in Los Angeles, especially, but certainly California. Whoever's making the laws and the lawmakers just do the stuff that you would piss you off the most and be the antithesis of what you would do if you were in that situation.
So is that what the cultural war has become? Like, that there is now like this charged polarity, with one side feeling that common sense dictates that this should be the direction of a state or a nation, and then this, like, this odd perspective that seems like it's designed to be antagonistic. Do you mean things like kids, like, because I was trying to think of what the counter argument is for kids, for the school not having to tell parents information about their kids. I presumed that a good faith argument for that would be, oh, what if a kid is being abused or mistreated at home? But I suppose that can't be the starting point for legislation. Like, the worst case scenario in a family dynamic cannot be the point from which a legislation is formed. Like, can you see like what the counter argument is? Because it can't be just to annoy Adam Carolla. That can't be their ideology.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they do is they take an outlier in a worst case scenario and then they prop it up and they do a sort of what if. So when you say, hey, listen, I'll tell you what would help the black community: family. If the dad stayed around and they raised their children in an intact family unit, then I think the black community would put it. And then someone always raise their hand and go, I know a black guy, he went to Harvard. He never met his biological dad. And I'd go, okay, fine. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying in general, this would be better, and then you go, I think they should reopen schools. These kids are suffering. Well, what about COVID? And then you go, well, the teachers are young and they're healthy and they're fine. Yeah, but what if a kid goes to school, gets COVID, and brings it back to his nana and his grandpa who he's living with, and they're elderly and compromised? And I go, okay, now we're just going off into some direction that is a worst case scenario. And what I'm saying is you're shutting down schools and or fighting for black families staying intact, or whatever it is. You can't go worst case scenario, you know somebody. That's not how policy needs to be made sort of for the masses. And just being antagonistic and the antithesis of doesn't work either. So that's where Biden came in and he just said, whatever Trump's doing, I'm undoing it. So he just went right down to the border with Mexico and said, what's Trump's policies? Well, Trump's policies are remain in Mexico and many other policies. And then he went, all right, undo it, because that's his policies. And my thing is your predecessor, who you may loathe and despise, may have been right on a couple of occasions, and for those policies you should leave alone and then enact your new policies. Biden got into trouble. He just said we're going to undo whatever it is Trump did.
I sometimes feel that reflexive authoritarianism poses as rationalism when actually it's a kind of veiled hysteria. And a personal example of that kind of control masquerading as care in my own life came when I was the parent on a school trip. You know how you can volunteer to go on a school trip with your kids. And when I went to get on the minibus, there was two minibuses, and I went to get on the one that my kid was on, of course, because for what other motivation could I have for going on a school trip other than I want to spend time with my own kid, other than I want to hang out and meet strangers' kids, which seems like a motivation worthy of inquiry in itself. When I went to get on the same minibus as my kid, they went, oh no, you can't get on the minibus with her. And I went, why? And they said, oh, in the event that there's a crash, you would prioritize your own kid over the lives of the other kids there. And like, that's the scenario that you're regulating from. We're already in a crash. There's kids dead on the floor, and I'm prioritizing my own kid. And it's what's interesting is that a rule has been made of the basis of conjecture that's pretty hysterical in the first place. And that's obviously just within one school, within a little institution, and it's annoying enough. So when you see it happening in states and nations, it's difficult to, I suppose, not inquire as to whether what's really behind it is legitimizing more and more authority. And is that basically what you believe, that they find ways to justify authority?
Well, I believe that COVID was a test to see who wanted authority the most, you know. And there's certain states and municipalities where the people in charge went, you know, it's not my business to shut down the beaches, and it's not my business to shut down schools or lock you in your house or force you to wear a mask or force you to get a vaccination. Like, that was their impulse. And I think that would be my impulse too, which is I don't want to tell people what to do. It feels like an uncomfortable position to be put in. On the other hand, many are attracted to it. And COVID, to me, was just a test to see who was most attracted to authority and being the authority, you know. And it was sort of, so COVID came, and many Democratic governors and mayors jumped into action. And their action, you know, in California, Newsom shut down outdoor dining. There were no tests. There was no history of any spread of COVID through outdoor dining. He just did it, you know, and he just stormed forward in his authoritative regulatory bouillabaisse that he'd cooked up, and they did it with everything. I mean, they literally arrested a guy paddleboarding in the ocean in Malibu alone. They arrested that guy. So they cut down the volleyball nets at the beach. They took pipes and welded them in basketball hoops so kids couldn't play outdoors basketball. They shut down parks. I belong to a beach club in Malibu, and they had a swing set that was outdoors in the sand, and they had police tape around the swing set. So Newsom likes it. he's attracted to it. That's what I'm trying to explain to everybody. And then everyone, I live in California, so everyone's going, oh, Trump. You know, everyone in California hates Trump, right? Trump's a dictator. And I would say, Trump's not the one who shut our beaches. Trump's not the one who shut our schools. Trump's not the one who shut the hiking trails. That's not Trump. That's your guy who did this. Why are you blaming? Trump's the authority. He's the, Hitlerian authority figure, except for he's not shutting down anything. Your guy's shutting down everything. Just a weird mindset for them to be at, and it doesn't bother them. They rationalize it and they justify it, and then they vote him in again.
I don't know how we've gotten to this point where it seems to me, as and I'm not from your country. I don't know how we've gotten to the point where we're presented with the specter of the terrifying strongman as a reboot of 20th century despotism, like that Trump is this authority figure, he's a monster, he's a racist, he's a sexist, he's a rapist, he's all of these things, and it doesn't alloy to what we're seeing, which is a kind of peculiar liberal authoritarianism in the way that you've described, the actual use of authority to prohibit, inhibit, control, restrict, surveil, censor, shut down, close down free speech, shut down comedy, shut down communication, impose and justify technological dictatorships. And the thing I've been thinking about for a while, Adam, is that new forms of dictatorship will not resemble the 20th century model, but will more likely have been previewed for us in literature, in like obviously Orwell, but also Huxley and even Kafka. The idea of sort of bureaucracies that are amorphous and difficult to read and difficult to know. They're actually quite friendly and benign, whether it's like what you've described, that ridiculous paternalism, which is a type of authority that legitimizes itself through protection, like you've described, or whether it's like what it's like to deal with YouTube or any bureaucracy. Like 10 years ago, we would have all talked about, oh man, you try and ring up, to complain to the bank or an energy company and it's a call center and you can't speak to a real human. Well, look at it now. If you have a dispute with YouTube, there's just this sort of anodyne friendliness. The team will get back to you on your complaint. It's like HAL, it's like sci-fi, it's inaccessible. And it seems odd to me that, as you've described, that what we are being taught, primed to fear, is Trump because of, I don't know, charisma, is it? And vulgarity, clumsiness, wealth, conservatism, capitalism. I'm not sure. When the real march of power, particularly through the pandemic period, has been this rather banal, creeping, insidious paternalism like we've described. How's it happening?
Yes. Well, no, I agree. So first off, everything is done under the guise of safety. Right? It's a safety issue. So we have to regulate this and we have to control you. I mean, once they bring up safety, and everything is done in the name of safety. I mean, all of COVID, every right you got stripped away was in the name of safety, right? But also when it comes to regulations, it's always just, you can't do this because there's a safety issue. And now we're going to impose ourselves because of safety. So first off, they come at it from safety. Now they end up with authoritarian, but they're coming with safety, so you're right. It's a completely repackaged. It's like they got a publicist, and so what they do is they turn Trump into a caricature from the 40s, and it used to be goose stepping and uniforms and Heil Hitlers, and it was very structured, and you could see it from outer space. Now it's a slow creeping, dipped in estrogen kind of look. We're worried about the kids, so that's why we're implementing these. It's a lot of women, and a lot of women talking about safety and stripping away your rights simultaneously, with a lot of like, what's wrong with you paying a little bit more so people that don't have, and now we're getting involved because we just want to take a little more of your money and give it to people that need it and could use it. And it's a safety thing. And, they have children, and we just